The sun had barely risen over the small town of Creekwood as 5 children, Tyler, Jenna, Alex, Maria, and Ethan, boredly lined up outside the bus for their school trip. Their teacher, Mr. Donovan, was excited, lecturing about the wonders of the science museum they would visit. But for the kids, this was just another day in the life of mundane middle school life. Each of them had their own thoughts on the trip. Tyler was only thinking about the soccer game that afternoon. Jenna was secretly checking her phone. Alex was planning his next video game conquest. Maria was daydreaming about winning the science fair, and Ethan was trying to sneak in a nap. When they arrived, the group followed Mr. Donovan's orders to stick together, but the kids quickly found themselves wandering off as the museum's vast halls swallowed them up. They passed by ordinary exhibits, fossils, rockets, and more, but none of it caught their attention. Then they saw it. A door marked restricted access, slightly ajar, with no guards in sight. For a moment, they hesitated, but the curiosity of youth was too strong, and they slipped inside without a second thought. What they found was nothing like the exhibits they had seen. The room was massive, filled with high-tech equipment and rows of blinking consoles. In the middle of the room stood a spacecraft, sleek and futuristic, like something out of a movie. The ship gleamed under the dim lighting, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly glow. The kids exchanged nervous glances. Ethan, always the first to act, wandered over to the ship's hatch. "It's just a display," he shrugged, reaching to touch a panel. The moment his hand made contact, the ship's engines powered up, emitting a low hum that rattled the floor beneath them. Alarms blared across the room. The kids froze, eyes wide with panic, but before they could move, the ship's hatch slammed shut. A countdown flashed on the nearest screen. "What the heck is happening?" Jenna whispered, her voice shaking. Tyler, trying to stay calm, slammed his palm against the console, but nothing worked. "We've got to get out of here," Alex yelled, but it was too late. The countdown reached 0, and the ship lurched violently, its engines roaring to life. The children were thrown back against the walls as the room around them twisted and shook. Through the viewport, they saw Earth shrink into the distance, vanishing into the stars. Where are we going?" Maria stammered, clutching onto the nearest chair. The ship shot forward, faster than anything they had ever felt, tearing through the atmosphere. Tyler tried to reach for the controls, but they were alien, completely unfamiliar. "We're in space," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the ship's roar. And in that moment, they knew their lives had changed forever. They were no longer just kids on a field trip. They were about to embark on a journey no one could have predicted. The ship raced through the void, its engines roaring as it propelled them further into space. The kids were pressed back against their seats, staring wide-eyed at the viewport, watching Earth shrink into a distant speck. There was no turning back now. We're in space," Jenna said in a daze, her voice barely above a whisper. She pressed her hands against the cool glass, trying to make sense of it all. How is this even possible? Alex, ever the skeptic, was scanning the cockpit's controls, trying to make sense of the buttons and levers. "This isn't a toy," he said, his voice sharp with panic. "This is real. This is a spaceship, a real one." Tyler, the oldest and usually the one to take charge, snapped into action. "Everyone, listen up. We need to figure out how to land this thing before we—" He froze, glancing out of the viewport. A massive ship had appeared out of nowhere, looming in the distance like a monstrous shadow. It was larger than anything they had ever seen, with sleek, metallic curves and glowing lines of blue light running along its hull. "What is that?" Maria asked, her voice trembling. The fear in her eyes mirrored what the others were feeling. Before anyone could respond, the ship lurched again, sending the kids flying toward the control panel. Panic set in as alarms blared, and a strange voice echoed through the cockpit speakers in a language none of them understood. "Do you think that's an alien ship?" Maria asked, her voice cracking. "I don't know," Tyler said, gripping the side of the seat. "But if they think we're some kind of threat, we're in serious trouble." The alien vessel closed in, its immense size overshadowing their small ship. For a moment, the kids thought they were about to be swallowed whole. But then, something unexpected happened. The alien ship's hull shimmered, and a beam of light shot out, latching onto their vessel. The ship shook violently, and within seconds, they were pulled toward the alien craft. "Hold on," Tyler shouted, trying to regain control of their ship, but the foreign controls were impossible to navigate. The kids had no choice but to brace themselves as their ship was drawn into the alien craft's docking bay. It was a smooth landing, too smooth. As soon as the ship's engines powered down, the lights in the cockpit flickered off, leaving them in a dim, ominous silence. Seconds passed before the ship's hatch opened with a heavy hiss. The kids looked at one another, wide-eyed and frozen. Then, slowly, they turned to the hatch as it creaked open, revealing a tall figure standing in the doorway. It was humanoid in shape, but entirely alien, with smooth, metallic skin and eyes that glowed faintly blue. The creature spoke in a language they couldn't understand, but the tone was unmistakably commanding. Guys," Ethan whispered, his voice quivering. "I think we're in big trouble." Tyler stood up, his heart racing. They had no idea who or what these beings were, but it was clear they weren't going to get out of this without a fight, or something else entirely. The children had found themselves in a situation they were far from prepared for, and the galaxy, it seemed, had just opened up before them. The moment the hatch opened, the children stiffened, their eyes locked on the alien figure standing in the doorway. Its towering form cast a long shadow over the cockpit, and the faint blue glow from its eyes seemed to pierce right through them. The being's metallic skin shimmered, reflecting the dim light of the ship. It spoke again, its voice deep and resonating, though none of the words made any sense to the kids. "What is it saying?" Jenna whispered, clutching the back of her seat. "I don't know," Tyler said, his voice tense. "But we need to be careful." The alien stepped forward, its movements fluid and graceful. It raised one hand slowly, as if to show it meant no harm. It wasn't a gesture of attack, but a gesture of authority. Behind it, other alien figures appeared in the doorway, smaller but equally as imposing. They wore sleek, dark armor and held strange, glowing weapons that hummed with power. "We're screwed," Alex muttered, backing away. "There's no way out of this." Maria's eyes darted around, looking for anything they could use, but there was nothing. Their ship was locked down, and any hope of escaping was quickly slipping away. Their only option, it seemed, was to face whatever came next. The tall alien raised its hand again, and the others behind it stepped forward, encircling the children. Their eyes never left the kids, and despite their towering figures and imposing stance, they didn't seem hostile, not immediately. The alien spoke again, this time with a more deliberate tone. The kids, though unable to understand, instinctively felt the weight of its words. Tyler took a deep breath and stepped forward. "We don't know what's going on," he said loudly, trying to convey some sense of authority. He wasn't sure if it would help, but it was worth a shot. "We're just kids. We didn't mean to." Before he could finish, one of the smaller aliens stepped forward, its mouth opening to reveal a set of sharp teeth. It hissed, raising its weapon. "Tyler, get down," Alex shouted, his hand reaching for whatever he could grab. But the moment the alien aimed its weapon, the tall figure intervened. The leader raised a hand, and the weapon was lowered instantly. Then, to the children's shock, the alien leader extended its arm toward Tyler and, without warning, spoke again in a voice that sounded almost human, though foreign at the same time. "You are not what we expected." The kids blinked, confused by the tone and the clarity of the translation. "You know what we are?" Tyler asked cautiously. The leader gave a slow nod, its glowing eyes narrowing. "You are the ones we've been waiting for," it said, its voice softening. You are the chosen ones, the ones who will help end the war. The words hit them like a slap in the face. Chosen ones. War. Maria echoed, her voice trembling. We're just kids. We don't even know how to fly this thing. The leader's eyes flickered for a moment before it nodded. That we already know. But the ship, your ship, it is not merely a vessel. It is a key to ending the Galactic War. Tyler's heart raced. A key. The kids had only one question on their minds. What had they gotten themselves into? The alien leader motioned for the children to follow, and although they hesitated, fear gnawing at their nerves, they had little choice but to comply. The strange figure led them through the winding corridors of its ship, which was far more advanced than anything they had ever seen. The walls glowed faintly with an ethereal light, and the floor was soft under their feet, almost like walking on a cloud. Yet for all its beauty, the ship felt cold and alien, as though it had never been built for humans, or for anyone so small, so fragile. The children moved in uneasy silence, absorbing the new environment. The language barrier was still present, but strangely, the leader never seemed to mind. Every now and then, it would gesture at a nearby panel or device, and the kids would instinctively follow. It was as if some invisible thread of understanding had connected them to the ship itself, as though they were already beginning to understand its ways. Finally, they arrived in a large, circular room filled with holographic displays and intricate star maps. In the center of the room stood a console, more sophisticated than anything they had ever seen, with glowing symbols and interfaces that seemed to shift as they approached. The alien leader turned to them, its eyes shimmering with what could only be described as cautious anticipation. "Welcome to the command center," the leader said, the translation echoing in their minds. "You are here because you have a purpose." Tyler exchanged a nervous glance with the others. "Purpose? We're just kids. We don't even know how to control this ship." The leader tilted its head, almost as though amused. "Your ship is not merely a vessel of travel. It is a key, a beacon, a part of something much greater. You are the bearers of an ancient prophecy." Jenna stepped forward, her skepticism evident. "What prophecy? What are you talking about?" The leader gestured to a massive hologram that flickered to life in front of them. The projection showed a map of the galaxy, with various planets, moons, and star systems highlighted in glowing colors. But at the center of the galaxy, there was a single symbol, an intricate shape that looked like a spiral within a star. "Long ago," the leader began, its voice quieter now, almost reverent, "the galaxy was united in peace, but greed and power tore it apart. Wars began, and entire civilizations were lost. The prophecy spoke of 5 beings from a faraway world, children who would unite the stars and end the war. The ship you found was created to bring you here." Maria stepped forward, a flicker of realization crossing her face. "So, we were chosen because of the ship. But why us? Why kids?" The leader's eyes softened. "Because you are not bound by the weight of history. You do not carry the baggage of old conflicts. Your minds are fresh. You see possibilities where others see only war." Tyler's heart pounded as the weight of the situation sank in. They weren't just passengers on a runaway ship. They were players in a galactic game they couldn't possibly have prepared for. "You must learn," the leader continued, its voice firm yet patient. "Learn quickly. The war is close, and your role in it is more important than you can understand." Alex swallowed hard. "And what if we fail?" The leader's gaze held steady. "You won't. You were chosen. You can't fail." It felt like the whole universe had just been placed in their hands. For days, the children trained with the Orcsians, their alien allies. The command center became their classroom, and the children quickly found that their minds were sharper, their bodies more agile than they had ever imagined. Jenna, who had once struggled with math and science at school, was now able to understand alien technology like it was second nature. Maria's fascination with biology and genetics quickly translated into understanding alien life forms, while Alex, whose video game skills had always been his claim to fame, adapted effortlessly to piloting the ship, learning complex controls faster than any adult pilot ever could. Even Ethan, usually the quietest of the group, found himself grasping new tactics, learning how to think strategically in the way the Orcs did. Tyler, as the de facto leader of the group, had to adapt too. But the weight of it all, the responsibility of guiding his friends, of protecting them, of leading them through this galaxy-sized mess, began to wear on him. He'd never asked for this. None of them had. But while most of the group began to bond with their new role as unlikely heroes, Ethan began to change. It started with small things. He'd isolate himself in the ship's quiet corners, staring at the stars with a strange look in his eyes. He became obsessed with the ancient alien artifact that had triggered their journey in the first place. He spent hours studying it, unlocking its hidden functions, and whispering to himself as if trying to piece together some forbidden knowledge. He'd begun to speak of power, power that could end the war, power that could change the fate of the galaxy. One evening, as the children sat in the ship's mess hall, Tyler noticed something was off. Ethan's eyes were glazed, his once innocent demeanor now replaced by something darker, something that unsettled Tyler to his core. The other kids noticed too, but none of them spoke about it aloud. It wasn't until that night, when the ship's alarms blared, signaling an intruder on board, that everything fell apart. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Tyler shouted as Ethan stepped into the control room, a foreign, shimmering device clutched in his hand. "I'm ending this," Ethan said, his voice low and cold, a far cry from his usual easygoing self. The device he held wasn't like anything they had seen. It hummed with a dark energy, radiating a power that felt wrong. The kids stared at it, realizing what it was. The device was a weapon. "No," Tyler said, shaking his head. "This is not the way. This isn't us." Ethan didn't respond. His gaze shifted to the viewport, his eyes locking on the distant planet below. A planet where the Phyrexians, the enemies of the Orcs, had built a massive stronghold. "The Phyrexians think they're invincible," he muttered. "But with this, I can make them fall. We can win the war now. My way." Tyler's stomach turned. He could see it now. Ethan had been seduced by the power of the artifact. It wasn't just the war that had drawn him in. It was the allure of control, of dominating the galaxy's future. He wasn't trying to end the conflict for the sake of peace. He was trying to reshape the galaxy according to his own vision. "Stop," Jenna cried, stepping forward. "This isn't you, Ethan. You're not alone in this. We're supposed to be a team." But Ethan's eyes were empty now, and his hand tightened around the weapon. "You don't understand," he said softly, his voice distant. "I have to do this." Before Tyler could stop him, the ship shuddered as the device activated. A surge of energy shot out from Ethan's hand, slamming into the ship's walls, and sending the kids sprawling to the floor. The lights flickered. The hum of the engine slowed. "Ethan," Tyler shouted, struggling to get back to his feet. "You have to listen to me. This is not the way." But Ethan was already gone, racing toward the exit, intent on bringing the weapon to the enemy. The kids stood there in stunned silence, the reality of the situation hitting them like a freight train. Their friend, one of their own, was about to become their greatest threat. The prophecy had chosen them, but they couldn't help feeling like they were losing him to the very war they were supposed to end. Tyler looked at his friends, his expression grim. "We need to stop him, before it's too late." The silence in the control room was deafening. Tyler's heart pounded in his chest as he turned to his friends. Ethan had just betrayed them, and now they had to stop him before his actions triggered a war that would destroy everything. "Okay," Tyler said, trying to steady his breath. "We can't let him get away with this." "We don't even know where he's going," Alex replied, his voice thick with frustration. "He could be anywhere by now." "Ethan's headed for the Phyrexian stronghold," Maria said, her voice a mix of fear and determination. "We have to stop him before he reaches their defenses. If he uses that device, it'll end the war, his way," Jenna finished grimly, looking toward the viewport. "And we'll lose any chance at peace." Tyler nodded. He couldn't let that happen. He wouldn't let it happen. "Alex," Tyler ordered, "can you get the ship moving? We need to catch up to him. We don't have much time." "I'm on it," Alex said, rushing to the control panel. He flicked switches and pressed buttons with quick, confident hands. The ship hummed to life beneath them, and the viewport showed the stars blur into motion as they shot forward, heading toward the planet where Ethan had gone. "Let's hope we're not too late," Tyler muttered under his breath. "We have to stop him before the Phyrexians get their hands on that weapon." The journey felt like it took forever, the silence between them heavy with worry. Each passing second seemed to stretch into eternity. The Araxian technology that had been so intuitive to them was now a double-edged sword. Powerful, yes, but in the wrong hands, it could be catastrophic. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Phyrexian stronghold appeared before them, a massive fortress orbiting a gas giant. Dark ships flitted around it like predatory birds, and the massive walls of the stronghold were lined with weapons, flashing with energy. "There it is," Maria said, pointing at the screen. "Ethan's probably already inside." Tyler clenched his fists. "Then we're not waiting. We need to find him. Fast." But as they neared the stronghold, something unexpected happened. A warning light flashed on the console, and an alert sounded. "They've detected us," Jenna said, her voice taut with fear. "They're locking onto our ship. Get us inside the stronghold." Tyler shouted to Alex, "We can't let them shoot us down." Alex punched in a series of commands, guiding the ship into the narrow docking bay of the fortress. The moment the ship entered the bay, a series of force fields activated, locking them in place. The walls outside hummed with power, and there was no going back. "We're trapped," Maria said, panic rising in her voice. "No," Tyler said firmly, his jaw set. "We're just getting started." The group rushed out of the ship, determined to find Ethan before the Phyrexians could use the weapon. They hurried down the cold, metallic hallways of the stronghold, their footsteps echoing ominously in the empty corridors. They didn't know what Ethan would do once he activated the device, but they couldn't risk giving him the chance. "We need to find him, now," Tyler urged, his voice low and urgent. Suddenly, they heard footsteps. Fast, frantic. The sound echoed from around a corner. Ethan appeared, his eyes wild with a manic glint. "You shouldn't have come," Ethan said, his voice flat and cold. The weapon was still in his hands, humming with energy, its dark power crackling in the air. "Ethan, stop," Tyler shouted. "You don't know what you're doing." But Ethan didn't listen. With a grim smile, he raised the weapon. "This is the only way," he said, voice full of conviction. "The war ends now." Tyler's heart skipped a beat. It was now or never. "Stop him," Tyler shouted to the others as he rushed toward Ethan. The fate of the galaxy was in their hands. Time seemed to slow as Tyler charged toward Ethan, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The dark energy emanating from the weapon in Ethan's hands was palpable, and for the first time since their adventure began, Tyler felt a deep, bone-chilling fear. This wasn't just about stopping Ethan. It was about saving the galaxy. "Ethan, please," Tyler called, his voice urgent, but his friend's eyes were distant, lost in a haze of obsession. The blue light from the device flickered dangerously in Ethan's hand, and the hum of its power grew louder, sending vibrations through the walls. "This is the only way, Tyler," Ethan said, his voice almost pleading but tinged with madness. "The Araxians can't win without bloodshed, but this weapon, it can take down their entire army, end the war now. I can change everything." Tyler's heart ached. This isn't him, he thought desperately. Ethan had always been impulsive, yes, but never like this. never so blinded by power. Something was manipulating him, driving him toward destruction. The artifact, the ancient device, it was controlling him, twisting his thoughts. "You're not alone in this," Tyler shouted, reaching out toward the weapon. "We're in this together. Don't do this, Ethan." For a moment, Ethan hesitated. His eyes flickered as if struggling to break free from the weapon's hold. Tyler took another step forward, but before he could get any closer, a sharp, cold laugh rang through the air. "Too late," Ethan sneered, stepping back and raising the weapon once more. "You've lost. I'm doing what should have been done years ago." Tyler's blood ran cold. Without thinking, he lunged for the weapon, hoping to disarm his friend. But as his hand reached for the artifact, a blast of energy shot out, throwing him back. The force of the blast sent him crashing into the metallic walls of the stronghold, his vision blurring with the impact. "Tyler!" Jenna screamed, rushing to his side. Tyler struggled to his feet, pain lancing through his body, but there was no time to rest. Ethan was moments away from activating the weapon. "You have to stop him." Tyler gasped, his voice hoarse. "He'll destroy everything." Jenna, Maria, and Alex exchanged determined glances. They knew what they had to do. "I'll distract him," Maria said, stepping forward. "Alex, I need you to disarm the weapon." "Jenna, cover us." Alex nodded, his face steely with resolve. He sprinted toward Ethan, using his knowledge of the ship's technology to hack into the weapon systems, while Maria created a diversion, her agility taking her to a vantage point above them. Ethan's eyes darted around, realizing too late that he was surrounded. As Alex reached for the device, Ethan growled, aiming the weapon at him. The air crackled with energy as Alex reached out, his hands trembling, but determined. "No," Ethan screamed, his voice cracking. "You don't understand. I have to do this." With a final, desperate push, Alex activated the ship's emergency override, scrambling the weapon systems. The energy flickered, and for a brief moment, the dark light in the weapon's core sputtered out. Ethan screamed in frustration, and in that moment, Maria dove toward him, knocking the weapon from his hands. It clattered to the ground, harmless once again. Tyler staggered forward, his vision still blurry, but he managed to reach Ethan's side. "Ethan, we're your friends. We're here to help you. This isn't you." Ethan collapsed to his knees, tears welling in his eyes as the grip of the weapon finally loosened. "I'm sorry. I thought I was saving everyone." Tyler knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We're all in this together. And we'll fix this. We'll make it right. But not like this. Not through destruction." The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, they could see the path forward. Ethan had been lost in his desire to end the war, but now, together, they would find a way to stop the conflict without tearing the galaxy apart. And with their bond stronger than ever, they knew the true test of their courage was only just beginning. Ethan's breathing was heavy, his hands trembling as he clutched the weapon, now powerless at his feet. The galaxy's fate had almost been decided in that one moment, but somehow, through the unity of his friends, he had been pulled back from the brink. Tyler, Jenna, Maria, and Alex stood around him, not with anger, but with the understanding that the real enemy wasn't just the war. It was the fear that had driven Ethan to do this in the first place. "We're still a team, Ethan," Tyler said, offering a hand to help him up. "We can end the war, together. But we have to trust each other." Ethan took a shaky breath, his eyes filled with regret as he looked up at his friends. "I don't know what came over me. I thought if I ended the war by my own hands, I could save everyone. But I was wrong. I was so blinded by the idea of control." "It's okay," Maria said softly, kneeling beside him. "The power of the prophecy isn't in one person or in one weapon. It's in us. All of us." Alex stepped forward, wiping sweat from his brow, his usual confidence returning. "We've learned how to work together, how to understand each other, and how to make the right choices, even when it seems impossible. Jenna nodded in agreement. We don't need a weapon to end the war. We need unity among the people of the galaxy, not control over them. We need to show them that peace is possible, but only if we come together as equals. Ethan looked up at them, a sense of peace starting to replace the panic in his eyes. You're right. I got so caught up in the idea of changing everything that I lost sight of the bigger picture. We can do this. Together. Tyler smiled, his heart lightening. The path ahead was still uncertain, but he knew that with his friends, they could overcome anything. The prophecy wasn't about a single hero. It was about unity, about ordinary people coming together to shape a new future. The group made their way back to the control room, where the Oraxians were waiting. The war was still raging across the galaxy, but the key to ending it had always been within their grasp, not through violence, but through understanding and cooperation. The children's courage, wisdom, and unwavering belief in each other had sparked a new hope. When they arrived, the alien leader, who had been observing the events unfold, gave a deep nod of approval. You have done it, it said, its voice both proud and calm. You have found the true strength of the prophecy. You are the ones who will unite the galaxy. Tyler looked at his friends, the weight of their shared journey settling in. They had come from nothing, just 5 ordinary kids, but now they were more than that. They were a symbol of hope, a beacon for a galaxy fractured by war. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady now. Let's show the galaxy that peace is possible. We can be the leaders they need, but we'll do it together. No more secrets, no more lies. And with that, the children, now more than just travelers or survivors, took their place at the heart of a new era. The war would not end with destruction, but with the unity of people from all corners of the galaxy, each of them learning the power of working together, of putting aside their differences for the greater good. The accidental journey of 5 children had led them to the stars, but it was their bond that would light the way forward. Together, they would reshape the galaxy. One choice, one act of kindness, one moment of unity at a time. The legend of their journey was only just beginning.